All right, let's get into our next discussion. This is going to be very interesting, I must say. Now, ahead of the 2019 general election, Nigeria now has 91 political parties, and this follows the registration of 23 new associations as political parties by the Independent National Electoral Commission.
Now, the national chairman and, the national chairman, that is, and the national secretaries of the 23 newly registered parties will receive their respective certificates of registration at an event scheduled to hold today, that's Thursday, at the INEC conference room in Abuja. But many say Nigeria doesn't need a lot of parties, as this will see the INEC budget increasing to accommodate logistics for the 91 parties. Of course, INEC has already given that as one of the reasons why it has this huge budget of 262 billion, but definitely 189.2 billion. We have been joined by Adamu Garba, a 2019 presidential aspirant. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Nice to see you, Adamu. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
We're also being joined from Abuja studio, a deputy director of publicity for the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Aliyu Bello. Also, another presidential aspirant, Ahmed Buhari, is in the studio in Abuja right there. Good morning, gentlemen. It's good to have you on the show.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Okay, let's begin from right here in the studio, I guess. Okay, let's begin with INEC, actually, because really this is really all about you. Now, officially, INEC has 91 91 political parties.
Yes.
This is to the INEC boss, not the boss, Aliyu Bello, the assistant director there. How overwhelming, really, is this likely to be for the 2019 general election, especially as it affects the ballot paper, which is a major concern that many Nigerians have expressed?
Yeah, thank you. And that is correct. We have 91 registered political parties at the moment. And I think, yes, it can obviously have some implications in the way the ballot paper will be designed. But that, I think, has to do more with the responsibility of INEC, because the laws of the country actually empowers INEC to register political associations to become political parties so long as they fulfill the requirements of the law. And that is exactly what happened, and that is exactly what brought the situation of having such high number of political parties. The Commission is duty-bound to register any association that fulfills the conditions for becoming a political party, and I think that is done.
Okay, Aliyu, we'll come back to you to understand the criteria for registering association into a political party. But let me bring it to Adamu Garba in the studio.
Yes.
91 political parties.
91 political
Do we
parties.
really need that amount of parties or that number of parties in Nigeria?
In the first place, I believe democracy is in action. You know, freedom of assembly, freedom of association is actually an expression of democracy. It means Nigerian democracy is maturing. It means many group of people wanted to participate in the political activities of the country. So it's a good pointer, but personally, I don't feel like we should have so many political parties in the country. I believe we already have political parties. And I believe if I have a new ideology or a new system that I'm about to bring into a political party, the easiest thing to do is to identify those political parties that somehow
align with what you have.
And then try to do it. I don't feel like it's systematic to actually reinvent the wheel. You just go in there and then redo the right thing. If you feel like there are some things that are not right in certain parties' constitutions or manifesto, you go with your own new ones. That's what I personally believe. But having so many political parties is indicative of how divisive the country is along the way, again, when you look at it, because there is serious political division and every other person is expressing frustration by going to register another association with another thinking in a very different way. So there is problem in uniting the country as a cohesive nation with the right direction. And that is what also another pointer to me that I can deduct as having these multiple political parties. And also it's telling on our books, you are picking up 200 and something billion naira that's supposed to power so many infrastructure projects just for an election. It doesn't, although I know election is very important in a democratic setting, but we should use these monies for something more important while also working in the interest of the country, not in the interest of our own personal ambition by registering different political parties to try to actualize it. That's what I believe.
All right, to Ahmed Buhari, who himself is a presidential aspirant right there in Abuja studio. Do you agree with Adamu Garba, who says 91 political parties? And I'm wondering, do we have 91 ideologies that really cannot be streamlined? Is that what we're saying? This is for you, Ahmed Buhari.
Thank you. So, right from the beginning, when we started this whole sensitization exercise, trying to get Nigerians to get more participatory in elections, in campaign processes, and the policies in itself, we made it very clear that the more political parties that the INEC will register, it will just create a distraction. Right now, we are more concerned about ideologically driven political parties so that the people know exactly where to turn to. I would have expected that INEC would have been more concerned about how these parties run their internal structures so that they confirm with the constitution that INEC stands for. For example, we would have expected that the parties, the INEC itself as a supervisory body will look at these parties and say, we would rather have you have a process where it will be more transparent within your internal party politics, where the cost for forms, the cost for campaign processes are being adhered to strictly so that we do not run a rowdy kind of campaign as we work towards 2019. For me, right now, as a young aspirant, what I'm really concerned about is to find a way we can unite ourselves, to find a formidable force. But unfortunately for us now, what we're experiencing is a total stretch across the lines of our political ideology. And now what we're beginning to have is everybody comes up tomorrow to say, I have a political party that I want to register, and you register them. And this is to no offense to all my friends who have been, struggling with the INEC to see how they can get their parties registered. I congratulate them. But at the end of the day, I would rather see us coming together as one body to forge ahead.
All right, Aliyu Bello, let me stay with you now in Abuja. You were talking about registration of political parties earlier on. Now, make us understand, when associations apply to INEC to be registered, I understand there were over 100, about 140 or even 150 associations. Yeah. Some were picked, others were not picked. So what is the criteria for an association to be registered as a political party when the others don't, or what the others don't have?
Well, let me begin by saying, in this situation, we had received applications from 144 associations seeking to become political parties, and out of these 144, only 23 made it to the top, which means those procedures and processes involved in verification of all claims have been applied, and it has been very rigorous for the Commission to select or to identify those 23 that have met up the criteria. What are the criteria? It is clearly stated in all the provisions and constitution of the law and extant laws that associations seeking to be registered has to fulfill certain requirements. The requirements include having to have a constitution in place, having to have a manifesto, having to be open to all Nigerians, regardless of ethnicity, religion, or tribe. It has a lot of conditions for the association to meet. And what the Commission did is, after receiving these applications, it went down to the grassroots to verify all claims and ensure that only those that fulfill the requirements of the law are registered.
Let me remain with you, Aliyu Bello, before I come to Adamu Garba right here in the studio. In trying to defend your budget of 189.2 billion naira, of course, the reps actually queried INEC for duplication of items. Make us understand, how logical is it that you would feed policemen, for example, with 6 billion naira and so many other, costs that have been broken down, logistics expenses, 7.4 billion, and so on and so forth. This duplication of items, make us understand it.
But actually, there wasn't any duplication, because what happened in the assembly is INEC presented the budget and they were scrutinizing it. It appears under certain subheads that funds were requested to execute certain specific projects which appear to have been like a duplication. It wasn't duplicated, and explanation was given in that respect, and I am sure the honorable members of both chambers have been fully satisfied with the explanation given by INEC.
All right. We will still come back to you on this because Nigerians would like to really know the justification for all of this, because if INEC is making preparation to feed the police, I know the police itself also has its own budget for all of that. So we'll look at those, but Adamu, let me come to you on this.
Yes.
Let's come to how the ballot paper is going to look like, for instance. There are so many associations with the word alliance for. There are others with the democratic, there are the others with progress, there are the others with Nigeria, and so on. Is the Nigerian average voter or electorate that sophisticated to understand the difference between seeing all of these political parties, 91 political parties, on one ballot paper?
This is actually, this is a very serious confusion, and it goes back to the root foundation of the INEC itself. It's doing a wonderful job, but it's actually more of an electoral institution than a democratic institution. INEC is supposed to function as a democratic institution in the first place. Before you even register political parties, there are so many things that you have to identify, the principle of which is guiding ideology, not just group of people coming together with some statements of legal responsibilities and then you give them a registration. What are your ideologies? Like in the Western democracies where we inherited our democracy from, you find out that they have the right and the left ideologies. Now, they even went ahead and defined the words that guides this ideology. If you are on the right, you are for stability and order. If you are on the left, you are for justice and equality. Now, if you go deeply behind it, you will see that the foundation of these things is founded from Martin Luther and the papacy. So that's exactly how these democracies evolve over a period. Now, what is our guiding ideology in Nigeria? Why is it that the principal questions that INEC is asking is not about the ideology you are bringing on the table and which area is it going to put you to? Now, these things shape everything around the human psyche itself. Because we, humanity, we human beings,
yes,
there are specific things that guides the way we do things. If you go to some European countries, because of this kind of confusion, they even default to Christian democratic parties. If you go to the Muslim countries in the East, they default to even Muslim political parties simply because you have to limit these things. Reduce confusion in the system. The whole thing is around giving the good governance. Are you bringing any new ideology on the table? That's what we need to do. So to the best of my knowledge, Nigeria doesn't even need more than 2 political parties or maybe 3 political parties, you know. But we have so many political parties. How much is it going to cost you to print even now? What if I now have a new political party again? Now, if we continue with this trend, it means by 2023, we may be having maybe 1,000 political parties. How is that going to work? This is a very serious problem. So we need to go back to the root foundation and establishment of the INEC and then define it clearly as a key democratic institution. The job is not just about election. The job is about enthroning the principle of democracy within the system. That is what I believe should be.
Okay. And I wonder whether Ahmed Buhari, right there in Abuja, do you believe that it is actually INEC's job to find out what exactly these political parties have to offer in terms of ideological leanings and all of that?
Yes, obviously, INEC has got a responsibility with that regard because primarily INEC should be looking for a way to find a stress-free electoral process where there will be no much confusion. Because talking about it now, I'm just trying to visualize what the ballot paper would look like with 91 political parties. It's not just going to be rowdy, but it's going to be really confusing. So I'm going to say this very clearly. This is a huge distraction. And we may not bother ourselves right now with what INEC is putting before us. We should just concern ourselves as electorate to say, you know what is it exactly that we want? What are the ideologies that we want? And we can find a way to get how these political parties, who most of them are driven by emotions and sentiments, to come together and say, look, for the progress of this country, what are we going to be focusing on? What are the things that these parties are bringing to us that is going to bring us a development, both economically, infrastructure-wise, and any other thing that we want to have as a people that want to be progressive. So fundamentally, I'm glad that we are having these discussions, but the word on the street is that INEC has created these many parties because of the budget that is going to allocate to the process that will give us the 2019 general elections. For me, I just want every young person who's listening to say, you know what, we're going to focus more on the ideology, we're going to focus more on the competence, we're going to look at this beyond all those lines that have always divided us, whether ethnicity, religion, political party, ideological affiliations, gender, and even age, and say, you know what, we want a collective people that are going to work together for the common goal of our country, regardless of the political party. So I'm hoping that this will not be a case of going to the ballot or going to the election day to create confusion, but rather to put together something that can give us a progressive country.
Okay, let me come to you, Aliu Bello. Now, let's talk about the issue of ideology, because this is coming up quite often. And the world over, everyone knows that political parties actually should thrive on ideologies. Now, INEC has the prerogative, has the power to decide who or what association qualifies to be a political party or not. The law is clear as far as that is concerned. But in as much as INEC has the powers to do that, it seems INEC has failed in trying to shape, or being the first association to shape, or being the first government institution to shape the ideology of political parties. Because if you want to give everybody, because they have the right to choose or the right to apply, and you give them also, it's derailing how we should build our political parties based on association. What do you say about this?
I think let us not throw the baby with the bathwater. What is provided for INEC is to obey and apply the laws. The provision in the Constitution and extant laws is quite clear. There is, I want to say that in as much as, yes, it is important to have certain things in place, but remember also the role given to INEC is to assess this application on the basis of provisions of the law as provided in the Constitution and other extant laws. And that is exactly what INEC is keep doing. And there is no way you can now begin to think that INEC will now develop its own set of regulations when in fact everything about party registration is clearly regulated by Constitution and Electoral Act. Therefore, yes, in fact, the Commission verifies. But I said at the beginning of this discussion that parties actually present to Commission Constitution and manifestos. And in those two documents, you can find reasonable information about how they wish to operate and what they intend doing. So the Commission is bound by law. I think instead of accusing INEC of not doing the best things, the things that many Nigerians would think that could have been done to limit the number of parties, why can't we begin to shift, not shifting blame really, but to look at the laws and look at the provisions and see whether INEC has applied the law the way it is, or INEC has failed in application of the law the way the law permits.
All right, back to the studio right here with Adamu Garba. Yes. It's a very tough call, really, for INEC. But really, who would you blame for the turn of events where we now have 91 political parties? We had a presidential aspirant here not too long ago who actually talked about the weaponization of poverty, the use of poverty, you know, to push down the masses, of course, the electorate inclusive. Who do you blame for this whole situation, really? I mean, can you really put it at the doorstep of INEC?
Frankly, it's not
what
INEC.
We have not been able to demand of our political class in such a way that it will reflect both in the number of political parties, in a way that we know this is what this political party stands for.
You see, leadership is supposed to provide a guiding philosophy and the policy direction for countries. It's not INEC. INEC is an establishment of law. Yes. Some people decide these laws that establish INEC, and that is where the root cause of the problem. Like if you look at our own programs, like under my contesting, we have electoral reform policies where we will completely look into party ideological shapings, as I mentioned earlier. So the problem is not from INEC. INEC is actually doing exactly what it's supposed to do by law. And I believe, as is established today, is a credible institution. But the root cause of establishment of the INEC, I mean the policy makers, the decision makers that sit down and formulate laws establishing INEC. 8, in the places where they need to put ideology first and foremost for you to present your papers to registration on the party than just to just come with some list of articles and then get registered. After all, if you want to register as an association, we have CSE. You can go to CSE and have your association certificate as a non-governmental organization or whatever you want to do. But if you want to be a democratic institution where you are shaping the destinies of the nation, of course you have to tell me what ideology do you have to shape this destiny. Leadership is about shaping destiny. You cannot just go there and just grab political power. That is not what it is. You are supposed to tell me what you need to take me from now to the next 10, 20 years. You can't come with just article of associations and just get it. It's not possible. So that is why we have to go back, reform the entire processes of INEC. INEC is not a one-time operations kind of institution. It's supposed to be every-time operations institutions in the Nigerian system. That's why I said it is actually a democratic institution. It's not an electoral institution as it's been practiced in Nigeria.
Okay. Ahmed Buhari, let me come to you on this. Now, this 2019 election is witnessing the highest number of political parties in the history of Nigeria. And it is also going to see the highest numerical number when it comes to voter registration. It is also going to see the highest number of contestants or aspirants, if you have to put it that way, comparative to 2015 election or 2011 or 2007 and in the history of Nigeria. So if we translate this to the democracy we're practicing, how is this shaping the democracy we're looking at in terms of charting a way forward as getting it right or fragmenting what we are supposed to unite or build together?
Yes, thank you. So I think in trying to get some of these big problems resolved, we would have to look at these things as a process. And as a process, you try to see how well you are doing and ensure that you're doing better than what you had yesterday. So for INEC, you might say, okay, fine, it's a process. We've seen some of the lapses, we've seen some of the problems. You've pushed this to the people, and if this government, if the system is truly for the people, people are now revolting and saying, this is a huge distraction for us. We're going to have complications. We don't think we're going to have the process move so well. We think that moving forward, we should re-amend the constitution that will favor INEC in such a way that the people will be the major beneficiaries. So I think it's a process. I think we should look at the things that we have been asked to rectify. Like you said as well, we're going to have more political parties. We're going to have more registered voters. I hope they come out because that's the most important thing here. But then again, we're going to have more candidates across board, regardless of the party, regardless of the office they're running for. I'm thinking that most importantly, Nigerians should be able to focus on what is right and ensure that as we move towards this 2019 election year, our focus will be more on competence. Our focus will be more on a way to find a united front over anything that's going to cause us more divisions. For me, I think even the parties that you have, the fact that we have so many parties, it looks to me like a division, which is not really good for our current kind of democracy. Otherwise, we probably will not be leading to where we want to go to. So I'm really excited about the process. I'm hoping that we understand that it's a process and try to see how we can amend some of these things moving forward as a people and as a country.
All right, let's move it to Aliyu Bello. Of course, it's a good thing you're here. I mean, you are the Director of Publicity of INEC. Now, tell us clearly, because when we had the INEC Chairman, Yakub Mahmoud, here, he said that 2019 election will be the best so far, and then you still have this funding issue that is still very much pending. Are there lapses within the whole process that you think that INEC, I mean, is INEC bringing this before the government of the day, for example, to actually fix those lapses? And are you able to tell us exactly where those gaps are so that they can be, patched?
I think looking at the processes and plans of INEC, there isn't any lapse. There isn't any lapse. Because the commission was proactive, first of all, in terms of fixing the dates for the elections, which enables all stakeholders to get prepared for the elections. And everything about the 2019 elections, as far as the commission is, remember also, let me just quickly say that even this continuous voter registration that is still going on is an exercise that used to happen only within a couple of weeks in the past. But because the Commission is actually being proactive, it has the projection of, let us finish up the registration of voter exercise on time. All processes and procedures and plans for the 2019 election, as far as the Commission is concerned, as far as Nigerians, I believe all of them are concerned, they could see INEC towing the side, which is quite favorable for having a peaceful, free, fair and credible elections.
Yeah, I do understand your point that there are no lapses, but I doubt whether Nigerians will agree with that. The continuous voter registration that you just talked about, a lot of people have complained about the cumbersome nature of actually, getting to register, and they're discouraged when they get there. The officials who are supposed to help make it easy don't at all. What exactly are you doing? Yes, you've extended the date from August 17 to, I think,
August 30.
to 30th of August. What are you doing to ensure that it is
easier? The date of the exercise is now extended to 31st of August this year. But remember, this is an exercise that used to happen, like I said, in 2 weeks. That was in the past. But this commission commenced this exercise since April 27th and sustained it for almost 16 months now, 16 clear months to enable Nigerians that are eligible to get registered. Well, of course, there may be one or two challenges, but those challenges are not quite insurmountable to constitute what you can now call something like that will look like something like trying to see if nothing is happening about the exercise.
Okay.
I want to just say that the CVR exercise that is initiated and sustained by Commission is actually a process that encourages and favors and offers to Nigerians the opportunity to get registered. And I think over time we've been successful in doing that across the country.
Okay. Adamu, let me come to you on this. In the First Republic, where we had the NPC and the Action Group and NCNC and so on, the campaigns that time were based on providing social amenities, housing, water, roads, electricity, and so on. In the Second Republic, in the days of the NPN and the UPN, the UPP, it was the same thing. Third Republic, it was the same thing. Fourth Republic in 1999, it was the same thing. And if you check down the line, these issues are still there. They're still not being taken care of until now. 2019 election, what should really be the message? Are we going back to the same social amenities, regular amenities and all of that?
Stuff.
Basic things?
Yeah. You see, the problem is mostly the same people that are in the First Republic, the Second Republic, and the Third Republic are the same people that are campaigning to us. So you don't expect a new message, you see. If you go back to First Republic, for instance, to me, it's pretty much even a principally defined structure than the way we even have it now. And that is why somebody like me, who was just born 36 years ago, decided to identify with a party, and that is APC. I am contesting for the presidency under the APC platform. I identify with that simply because I look into this party as part of the foundation since 1957, when we have the First Republic. So, and there are some people with genuine intention for Nigeria within that same political parties. But it has to evolve. So my emergence as a presidential aspirant under the platform is an indication of evolution. A new trend is coming into the scene. You cannot be telling me you want to construct maybe 1 kilometer of road without telling me why. You cannot tell me that you can give jobs, 3 million, 10 million jobs without explaining to me how. So the campaign of 2019 election must be shaped by why from the electorate and how from the people that wanted to be elected. So everybody have to discuss how. Like if you check the way we detailed our own programs, we are only talking about how. How we are going to create jobs in our tax policy, how we are going to create jobs from our farm to factory policy, how we are going to create jobs and build skills by trading in exchange for skills, how we are going to change the education system by bringing vocational and education training system, how we are going to have contributory healthcare system to cater for our healthcare system, how we are going to do many things. How? Okay. How we intend to make sure we list NNPC on the global stock exchange so that we can privatize it. It should not be just for small people and this is the reason why, how we intend to invest certain amount of money in our GDP to grow our infrastructure, and why, how we intend, and sorry, before you...
Adamu Garba, you're almost holding us spellbound, and I can imagine how our viewers will be feeling right now. Now, Ahmed Buhari, let me ask you this. Of course, Adamu has talked about why he's chosen the APC as a platform. Now, let's look at the general picture, the wave of defections going on right now. Does it even make room at all for young people like yourself who really, you're interested in, taking over the highest realm of office in this country? What does this defection say to you, first off?
Yes, when we started this campaign, we were very clear about the fact that we needed to concentrate on the existing political parties. This is not to say that those who have successfully registered their political parties, that anything is wrong with going through the exercise. But I think we need to sort of close these things down to understanding that, look, these structures already exist. And what we need to do is to leverage on the structures. There is no need reinventing the wheel. So when we saw those political parties, though we may say some of them haven't got their kind of ideology our generation wants, some of them haven't got the kind of values, system that we think our generation will be clamoring for. So we decided, look, even though I'm going to be declaring under the People's Democratic Party like I did a few months ago to run as the presidential aspirant under the People's Democratic Party, we're doing all of that because we're coming with something new to the table. We're coming with a different kind of campaign, with a different kind of ideology, with a different kind of process. And these processes that we've been trying to share with the Nigerian people when it comes to sensitizing them, when it comes to understanding the electoral processes, when it comes to getting involved in the politics, it was mainly because we want to bring all of us together. And even though some of us do not agree with some of those platforms, we do believe that if we can come in our multitudes into those party systems, we can tell them what we truly want. And the moment we are more than the people that we think are not giving us what we want, our voice will prevail. And so for anybody who is thinking that some of those political parties are not redeemable, especially from the perspective of young people, I think it's not true. I think what we need to do is to truly get involved. We cannot change the system from the outside. If we really want to change the system, we have to go into the system, we have to express ourselves, we have to let them know what we want and how we want things to be done. So I don't think that 2019 ideology or manifesto should be about the promises that we've always had that never gets fulfilled.
All right, Buhari, let's leave it there because of time. Yes, thank you, Buhari. Thank you, Buhari. Thank you, Buhari. Let's leave it there because of time. Aliyu, I'm going to give you this last open window now. You are the Deputy Director, Public Enlightenment of the INEC. We have seen in the past, if you ask an average Nigerian how enlightened they are, courtesy of the INEC, not so many people have something to say about that. Now, what is going to change about your strategy to enlighten? Because we see lots of budgets here that you have from the paper, New Telegraph today. There's so much, huge amount of money for public enlightenment. What is going to be the new strategy to reaching out to people?
Yeah, in fact, the Commission is actually looking forward to having in place a number of strategies, including the ones we keep doing. For instance, at the moment, radio, television, and all conventional media platforms are fully engaged in sensitization of citizenry over electoral process. And going forward, the Commission is actually engaging all stakeholders at lower levels, I mean at local levels. The traditional institutions will come in, religious faith-based organizations too will be involved. A lot more efforts will be done to sensitize citizens, including all strata of the society, I mean the PWDs, women groups, and the rest of them. There are a lot of efforts being planned, being executed by Commission to ensure every citizen of this country is well informed about his rights, about his duties in the electoral process.
All right, we've run out of time completely. Of course, it will cost INEC. INEC is looking for 710 million naira for voter education. We'll have to leave it there, gentlemen. Aliyu Bello is a Deputy Director, Publicity INEC. Ahmed Buhari, also right there in our Abuja studio, is a presidential aspirant. According to him, it will be under the PDP platform. And of course, Adamu Garba is of the APC, hoping to get that presidential ticket. We wish you both gentlemen the very best in your quest to govern and lead this country.
Thank you very much. Now, before we go, we have to let you know that the views and reaction of our resource persons on the program and topics we discussed today are their views and have no connection with TVC. Thank you very much. Now, before we go, let's just do a rundown of some papers this morning. The Nation newspaper, lawmakers consider INEC's 189 billion naira elections budget.
And the New Telegraph, INEC, why we're spending 6 billion naira to feed policemen. Of course, there's a breakdown of the figures on the front page.
And this day newspaper is saying presidency clarifies Daura's status, says he's being debriefed and not detained.
And the Vanguard, uproar as EFCC 6 minutes of Benue's security meetings.
All right, Daily Trust is saying, I am considering running for president. Saraki says that, and why Buhari should be voted out. Tambuwal is revealing that.
Inflation falls marginally to 11.14%. That's from The Punch. And
we must thank you for spending your morning with us. Tomorrow we'll be back again to discuss other issues concerning Nigeria and Africa, as well as the world. Have a great day ahead. I am Mike Okwache.
Thank you so much for joining us. Let's see you again tomorrow, Friday. I am Ngozi Alebu.